What's the furthest you've ever been from home? What if someone told you your home, city, and country never existed? Why would a person be dropped into a universe they had no part of? Today we test the believability of the Man From Taured.
Welcome to Believing the Bizarre,
Where we dive into the unknown and the unusual
and tell you whether or not we find it believable.
I didn't mess this one up. I knew I got it right from the start.
What do you mean?
The intro.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Like last week.
That was just a fluke.
It happens. It happens.
So, let's talk about this a little bit. You never heard the story before today.
No.
Which I'm
no.
actually really surprised. This is a pretty common story.
Well, sorry.
I'm
Too busy playing
I'm
Neopets.
disappointed.
This is our monthly episode that is attached to a quiz.
Oh, yes, it is.
On Patreon. So if you want to play blind like me, unless I'm the only person in the world that doesn't know this story.
You might be.
I might be. Did that help me? Did that hurt me during the quiz? I don't know how it could help me. But if you want to play along, if you don't know the story and you want to play along, that is over on our Patreon. But otherwise,
let's buckle in like you would on an airplane.
Buckle in.
Did you know some people say that Australia is not real?
Yes, I've heard that.
Isn't that crazy?
I've heard that more than I've heard this story.
Could you imagine being in Australia and be like, of course
here.
It's real.
Hello.
Crikey.
I feel like that's just where they drop the animals that we don't want anymore.
The poisonous ones.
Yeah, the ones that bite, the big ones, the ones with
fight
venom. And they're just like, what do we do with them? Just put them in Australia.
They're like, why are the kangaroos so weirdly jacked?
I was thinking that it's silly to buckle up on an airplane because, if it's going to crash, it's not. But, turbulence, right?
Yeah.
That thing.
Yeah. Stephanie said we went to Scotland. There's a lot of turbulence.
You thought that? Or
Stephanie said that. I was asleep.
I was going to say, did you not have the same experience? Did you guys take separate planes? How did your plane ride go?
Mine was very, very quiet and sleepy. Hers was very
But no
turbulent.
dreams, right?
No, not at all. So let's talk about this guy.
This man.
From Taured.
From
I
Taured.
think that's how you say it.
How do you spell it?
Taured. Taured.
Taured. Ari Torrid. Yeah, I don't know how else. I don't know.
Taured.
What are you going to say for the rest of the episode? You got to commit.
Taured. So, on a normal day in summer, July of 1954.
That's almost exactly 60, 70, 80, 90, 2000. That's almost exactly 70 years ago.
Hey, that's pretty neat.
A year off.
So, in July of 1954, a man arrived at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. He was a Caucasian man, and he seemed fairly indiscreet. The plane landed with no complaints, no reports of any oddities in the sky. Nothing was strange in the sky. And that's when this ordinary plane ride turns into a mystery. When the man started reporting to the customs officers, he claimed he was from a small country in Europe, and this country was called Taured. He said it was his third time visiting Japan from that country. So he'd been there before. Everyone was extremely confused because no one had ever heard of that country before. But this man was holding a genuine passport issued by Taured. It looked real to their standards, and no one could place this country. You want to say something?
I feel like if I worked in customs, I'd be like, oh, Taured, cool, yeah, sounds nice. Take your shoes off.
Move along.
Take your laptop. Well, that's TSA.
Yeah.
And you probably didn't have to do that back then.
You could smoke on the airplanes back then.
Is your bomb carry-on, or are you checking that?
You're strapping it in.
No, but very seriously, if someone said they were from the country of Taured, I'd be like, cool.
Move along.
Maybe geography was a bigger thing.
I think it probably hit some.
There was no Netflix.
That's true.
So what else did you have to do besides look at the map? Spin your globe.
That's all you did back then.
Just spin it around.
Well, it's weird because I think you're pretty familiar with most major countries, and it has a real passport.
Yeah. So if he showed me a real passport, that would further be me just being like, okay, cool.
I guess what sparks,
Just because I'm a dumbass and I don't know doesn't mean that other people wouldn't be like, I've never heard. I'm not saying it's weird. I'm saying if I happen to be the person he interacted with, this story may never exist.
Would never happen and be like, oh, goodbye.
Nope. But I could see why somebody who's knowledgeable about our globe.
That's true. So what they did when they were very curious about what happened, they actually gave this man a globe and they said, point to where Taured is.
Doesn't that seem a little strange?
Why?
They just had a globe, and then they also just I
think there's a map on the wall. Same.
So why are they? Is this part of is this normal for customs? Like, what aspect of that is?
I think they're confused about what's going on. Where are you from?
Okay,
and you not to push back quite so hard.
I guess.
You don't think there's you don't think there's a map of the world in an airport?
No, it's not that. It's just if somebody. I guess it's security, so and it's important.
Yeah, but it's important.
If someone said a country and they had a passport, it's like, what else do you need? There's no Photoshop in the 50s, is there?
You also there's probably a list of countries that are known you're allowed to be from, countries you're not allowed to be from,
and they're not on either.
Either. So it's like, what do you do?
Do we let him in?
Well, that's a big question.
He's got a nice suit on.
Anyway, so they get in this club to point to. And what he does is he points to a spot on the map. And on that spot on the map is a country, but it's not Taured. It's the country of Andorra, which is a small country that borders Spain and France, and it's in the mountains. It's a real place. You can still look there. It's still there. So now everyone's even more confused.
I wonder if he's confused.
Yes, he is.
So he's like, wait a minute, this must be a faulty globe. It's from Hobby Lobby.
He's like, why did they misspell Taured?
That's silly.
So now they're even more confused at this point. He's starting to get upset. They're upset. And he's like, I know that my country has been around for 1,000 years, but I don't know why it's labeled Andorra on this map. And there are even more things that were strange about what was going on. He carried with him different types of money, like different amounts, large amounts of different kinds of money. So it shows that he's been traveling. He said he worked at a company. However, this company wasn't from Taured, like he said. They found that the company he said was actually a Japanese company, which is kind of strange to me because he landed in Japan, right?
Yeah.
But it feels like it would have more of a name, like the name.
A European name?
Yeah. Like it must be a more European name if he reasonably thought it was from Taured, right? Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I mean, it could be headquartered in Japan, but have a business. It could have what is the word I'm trying to say? It could be not outsourced, but it could have a facility in Taured, but headquartered in Japan.
Well, he said it was headquartered in Taured.
Well, he's lying. He's making shit up.
He also said that he was supposed to be staying at a local hotel, but when they contacted the hotel, they said they had no reservations for his name.
So this is all still at the airport.
Yeah.
So he's like, he's got a passport that makes no sense.
Yeah.
He's pointing on the globe to a country that doesn't exist. And he apparently tried to reserve a hotel or claimed he had a hotel room reserved that they had no record of him.
Yeah.
Did he have a name?
Not that I saw. I'm sure he had a name. I don't know the name.
That they're all on to point to a globe with where you're from, but they skipped over name.
Yeah, they didn't give a name.
Hey, guy. Hey, Mac.
The man.
Mac, right?
Well, here's the thing. They might have forgot the name because we'll see what happens.
They were flustered.
Exactly.
Good thing I carried my globe with me today.
So what happened was the custom officers, they took the man into custody. And what they decided to do was to put him up in a hotel. And they left him there while they continued their investigation. But they did put 2 men on patrol outside of his door to ensure he could not escape. And this hotel was also very high up. Put him top of this floor, top of this hotel, no balcony. And it was also really strange about the hotel was there's only one door in and out.
That sounds like a fire hazard.
It does. It was also in the 50s, so I don't know how strict those codes were.
There were no fires back then. So they're like, all right, we're going to make him pay for this. Let's give him the penthouse and a nice hotel with a great-ass view for free. That'll show him.
You son of a bitch, you enjoy that caviar.
It's on the house.
Champagne, make you drink it.
But no balcony to drink it.
Yeah, right? No. The ultimate torture. But the next morning, the man from Taured was gone.
What happened?
He seemingly disappeared into thin air. All of his personal documentation the man had on him was also gone. They vanished and were never found. They searched for him, but it was in vain because he was gone. And there seemed to be no way that he could have escaped.
He's left the hotel room trashed.
The guards were asleep.
Damn.
Yeah, it's really strange. That's where the story ends, actually. That is where the story ends. So, what I've got here for the rest of this episode is encounters from people that have claimed to experience other dimensions.
Okay, I thought you were just going to read some poetry you've been working on.
Not today. Not today, but I've got more stories. And then at the end of this, we'll talk about the whole thing about the Man From Taured and parallel dimensions and what that all entails.
You know, that's interesting you say that because not that this is just maybe not quite as a globe. Having a point on a globe is probably not as weird as this question I'm about to say.
Okay.
But my instinct would be to ask him what year he thought it was.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, in the context of real life, that'd be very strange. That's almost like a concussion question.
Yeah.
Like, how many fingers am I holding up? Who's the president? Do you believe in the Illuminati? You know, like those. But, you know, like based on what was happening, now this is the 50s, things are different. But I feel like all these things aren't lining up. It's like, what year do you think it is? And what if he was like, obviously it's 2,243. It's just like, that makes sense. That checks. That checks.
Oh, time traveler. I see.
But yeah, let's get to some of your interdimensional.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a quote from Reddit.
Yes.
Yeah. These are Reddit stories. Although I found them on India Times, but they pulled a bunch of like Reddit stories.
So instead of your poetry, you're going to be reading other people's creative fiction.
Well, you know.
I'm just kidding. I love Reddit.
I mean, some might be real.
Yeah, sure.
Quote, about 4 years ago, I lived in a fairly small flyover speck of a town. At the time, I lived there for about 12 years, so I knew my way around. Our house was about 1.5 miles away from the nearest neighborhood. Our mom intentionally picked that house due to the lack of neighbors. It was tucked away on the back road, with woods surrounding it. Every now and again, I like to take walks with my little brother, who was at the time about 13. We decided to do just that. We headed up the road and decided to try to find a new path or a new clearing that we hadn't discovered yet, when we noticed something a little shocking. Just off the road that led almost directly to the neighborhood, there was a brand new paved road. Every road in that part of town was a gravel road, so seeing an out-of-place paved road was pretty unusual. We started at it for a while and came to the conclusion that it must have been made within the last few days, due to the modern but slow growth of the town. However, we had no explanation for how they did it so fast. We decided to explore it a bit, and I remembered as soon as we set foot on the road, the air became notably colder, by at least 5 degrees. The road itself was black pavement, but no driving lines. It was surrounded by some thick, red trees that resembled redwoods, but they were too short and not native to our state, southern Arkansas. We walked on the road for about 3 miles until we decided to head back due to it getting dark. When we got off the road, we felt the temperature go back up. My brother and I agreed to explore it the next day. At roughly noon the following day, we set back out to explore this place, only to discover that the entire road was now missing. When I say missing, I mean the trees that were cleared to make it had apparently grown back, with no sign of the redwood-like trees. We even began to explore the woods once more, but only to find no sign that it ever existed. When we asked our parents about it, they said they knew nothing about any new road being done near us.
That's spooky.
It is spooky.
It sounds familiar. Where did we have a story like this recently somewhere? Like during our live stream with Ben, was there a story?
I'm thinking maybe.
I feel like there's some interdimensional like shifting thing.
I'm thinking Ruffin Mirage was the last time we talked about something like this.
Let's just put the whole episode of Ruffin Mirage right here as like the segue.
Yeah.
Maybe I just don't pay attention to shit enough, but like I don't think I'd have the mindset that like these trees are not native to here.
Well,
I don't think it's a them thing. I think it's a me thing. I don't think I like the country name or like the trees. Now, if it was like some Jurassic Park looking or palm trees. You know? Maybe, but just like, I don't know, redwood trees. I don't know. I just don't think it would. Now the whole thing would be striking with like the pavement and like stepping on it and it getting colder.
Well, what do you think about it being colder? That's strange,
it makes me feel
right?
like it's different. They're just they went
somewhere else.
Yeah,
they're lucky they got back.
There's things that we've talked about in the past, like there was the clipping.
Yeah,
you know, that type of thing to the back rooms.
Yeah,
and then there was the elevator game where you ended up somewhere else. So the mysterious staircases. We definitely have covered topics where you end up somewhere else. And Rough and Mirage, like you said, I think is probably the most representative of you being somewhere natural and then it just in front of you changing versus like you do something and then it triggers something else, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's striking to me that maybe the Earth isn't as fixed as we like.
True. I don't know. Like, I mean, it's like I feel like if you live in your daily life, it can seem so normal. Like you work, you come home, you watch TV, you shower, you go to bed, you wake up, and it seems like the world, you know, telephone, FaceTiming, the world is small. But then you hear stories like this, and I feel like it just completely expands what you think the world is, and I love that about these stories.
Well, you know what? I've heard an explanation for this kind of theory. It's like there are thousands and thousands of layers of the same Earth, right? Stacked on each other. And every so often, those layers don't quite align. And that's what these things are.
I don't know. Or what about thinking about like how the world is moving and it's like spinning, but we're also moving around the sun in like space and twirling. And it's just like physically where we are right now is not where we're going to be in 2 seconds.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel like we're moving, but we are. It's just like, if you think about that and like relativity with time and I don't know, like I have nothing to go further than that thought, but it's a battle of how we perceive our world in our normal day and life versus like these type of stories and trying to think of like how they could be real or what could really be out there.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. Quote, so I never discussed this with anyone other than my sister and a friend of mine. Around the age of 11, my family decided to go visit my grandparents, and while we were there, I decided to go out and play around for a bit. They lived in a flat in the middle of the city. They had a road that had stores and then a car park on the right that had enough space for me to play around with my friends. As I got down and ran to the car park, a car went past and nearly crashed into me. In that car, there were 3 passengers. A woman, her daughter, and a male driver. As I dodged that car, they looked like they had no emotions whatsoever and looked really dull. And as I focused into the car, the male driver was my dad, and the car was our car. Same color, same plates, same everything. I stood there in shock, but then I instantly ran up to our car thinking it was stolen, but our car was right there. I turned around to follow the other car, and all I know, the car was no longer there. Standing there in shock, I ran upstairs to go to my grandparents' house without knowing what to do or what to say. Luckily, my sister was right by the door. She stood there laughing at me, and she told me the dad hadn't left the house yet. Ever since, I tried to explain myself for what I saw, but I was unable to express what my eyes saw, and finding the subreddit today was actually really helpful. Quick note about the passengers and my family. At the time what happened, I was the youngest child of 2. My sister was 5 years older than me. When my sister was born, she was told she wasn't going to live past a week, and my mom would never be able to have kids again. The passenger was a woman that slightly looked like my mom, but I was more shocked about the fact of me seeing my dad with another woman in the car. That's the end of the quote.
So, wait.
It's a little rambly.
It went, so is the twist at the end that it wasn't his mom in the car?
I think the twist...
Well, like that whole, it's like the end of the Avengers movie where it's like the story's done and they're like, but wait.
Hold on.
But wait. There's a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it's going to make you curious. Like, I feel like it didn't, and now it's like, was there an affair? Like, what is this last part adding here?
I think, I don't know.
Is he trying to get something on the CW?
Maybe he's trying to say the mom and the dad split up in the future. I don't know.
You think it was the future?
Yeah, I don't think it was actually.
I thought it was the past.
Oh, it was the past.
Now, a good detail would have been how old his sister was in the car. I
Yeah.
took it as she was younger. He was younger than his sister by 5 years.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
And he wasn't in the car.
yeah. So I would
So
assume
maybe it was the past.
I think it was the past. Well, I'll be honest. I don't think it happened. But assuming it may have, I think it was the past.
Okay. I don't know. I think that one's a little...
Maybe it's the storytelling, which isn't fair.
Yeah, it wasn't great storytelling.
There's something inherently less believable about this one than I think it's because the other one it feels more happenstance. Like you just happen to walk into an area that was shifting, but it's not about you. The universe is not about you. Like you're in a place and you're just seeing something else where it's like this person just happened to see, but it's his own experience, I guess.
Yeah.
But he happens to see.
But you're right. This is about his family.
Yeah, like what caused him to see his own? But maybe you can only run into your own, like your path. Like if there's multiple paths in dimensions, maybe you can only interact with your own.
Well, I don't know. That first story would almost dispute that, right?
We don't know because we didn't get further. Maybe they should have walked down that road more.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe none of this is. That's an interesting idea, though. I like that.
I don't know the rules on any of this stuff.
Right.
I think it's like I have such a mindset that like anything where it seems like one of these stories where things conveniently happen to you in a way where it's like, oh, you're the main character of the story.
Well, you make yourself the main character. It's
you do. And anything we hear happens to you, happens to the main character. I mean, because that's what happened with the first story. Something happened to them.
Yeah.
But this one is like, it was my family. But I don't that doesn't mean it's not real.
It is hard to believe.
Just being honest with my instant reaction to it. But I mean, I guess if it wasn't his family, then he might not know that it was an unusual circumstance.
That's true.
You would just think it was a car that almost hit you.
Yeah.
Like, well, that's dumb. They're dull.
Yeah.
They're gray looking. But, where it's like if it's your family, then it makes it, the connection's there. Otherwise, you wouldn't know. You just think this asshole's driving out here with an old car. That's a 2020 model. It's from 3 years ago. It's different than hey, that's my family.
Yeah.
That's my dad with some woman who's not my mom and my sister.
Yeah, that's weird. But yeah, I understand. Because if it wasn't, it'd just be a family.
There's a lot to unpack from that Reddit story, but I don't think we're going to be doing it here.
No. Let's move on to the next story. Quote, this story is from my perspective. While at a festival, a man walked up to me and stared me dead in the eyes. His irises were so dark that it was impossible for me to distinguish his pupils. He spoke. He said, "What's that? You see it?" I suddenly saw a bright array of colors surrounding him, much like what I'd think would be an aura. Can you hear it? The aura faded away, and I heard a bunch of high-pitched harmonic hums, resembling an ensemble of singing bowls. Perhaps you can smell it. The sound was no longer present, but I smelled an incredible fragrance. It's like a bit of a stretch to say it resembled lavender. Or can you taste it? I experienced a taste in my mouth, similar to that to a cough drop. My mind was blown. From what I experienced, this man was playing with my senses, simply by looking at me and speaking. It was as if he had special, conscious-related powers. I asked his name, and he said, "I have no name." He walked away. I never saw him again. End quote. I thought that was a fun story. I thought that was really interesting.
It's probably not the craziest thing that happened at the festival. I've been to some festivals that are pretty...
I mean, you could probably say there were probably some drugs involved in that.
Yeah.
I just like that story because it makes me think that even if people are at festivals going crazy, doing whatever they do, that maybe there are interdimensional people,
black eyes,
that take advantage of that and go there and have a lot of fun with those people.
I get. So when you say festival, what do you think of?
Music festival.
Yeah, that hit me later. I was thinking like a country fair, like a county fair with like cows.
No,
and like,
I was thinking like Lollapalooza or something.
I was thinking like a broken down Ferris wheel that no one in their right mind should go on, but there's a huge line and cheese on a stick.
No, I'm thinking lots of EDM music.
Yeah, that would make more sense. What makes you think this guy's interdimensional?
I think that he had the power to shift perspectives just by, using powers. Or
See, if this story wasn't in this episode, I don't think my mind would go interdimensional. I would think that he has like maybe telepathic powers, or not telepathic in that I can move things, but like I can plant something in your brain.
Oh, that's interesting. The reason I put it here is because I thought it was interdimensional.
It could be. I'm not saying it's not. I'm just saying that's not. My instinct isn't to think it is.
That's fair.
But that doesn't mean it's, obviously I don't know shit. But it makes it seem like this, if he's an entity, it's not a normal dude.
Right.
It's like this entity has the ability to make you feel certain things. But, I guess if there's a dimension where people have that power, it's the future. That's just not where my brain goes. But definitely strange. I know we're not like in the discussion yet, but in terms of believability, where do you put that one compared to?
Let's calm down.
Where do you put that one compared to the one we just heard with the guy who saw his car, his parents' car?
I put that one higher up, actually.
Do you think this one's more believable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here's why.
Yeah.
It's more happenstance. It just happened to him.
Yeah. There you go.
He's not the main character.
Even if it didn't really happen, now we're getting like real technical here. If this person went on these drugs and okay, now let's take a step back.
Yeah. Okay. Step back.
Okay. So there's the story of whether it really happened or not, and then there's a story of whether the author really believes it happened.
That's true.
It's almost like two different believability skills, where it's just like, is the guy who saw the car just telling a good story? And maybe the person at the festival didn't really see this man, but if they were on something and they feel like they saw him, there's a little bit more believability, not in the factual way, but in that this author is telling their truth.
More genuinely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about any of these for either.
No, we can't.
There's no way we can't.
To me, it's told that way where it's more genuine.
I think one is creative fiction, the other one's creative nonfiction. Take that for what it is.
Let's do the last story. Quote, did I visit a parallel universe? New to Reddit, but I made an account just to share this experience of mine. Me and my cousin and my aunt were all outside on the front porch playing. We were all the same age, around 4 or 5, except for the aunt, I assume. 2 teenagers approached us and asked if we wanted to see a castle. I knew this was bad news, but my cousin had to go see it, so we both agreed to follow. We went into the woods and walked along a trail for what felt like an eternity. Probably only 20 minutes or so, realistically. We arrived to find a beautiful, gleaming, majestic castle in the distance. I'm talking something you would see in a movie. This place was made from heaven. It literally shined as if we entered a city of wealth. We excitedly looked at each other and sprint home to tell our parents. The teenagers stayed behind and never chased or followed. Our run back was instantaneous, as if it took a few seconds compared to the walk there. We go and tell my mom, and obviously she's freaked out and tells us no, we're playing outside for the day. Here's the thing. My mom was so incredibly strict on me that she would never have let me out of her sight for longer than a minute. The door of the front porch was open, so there's no way 2 random teenagers could have actually taken us into the woods, let alone anywhere out of our parents' seeing. My mom and my cousin's mom were 2 adults home at the time. I spoke to my mom about this multiple times. There's no church or anything nearby that we could have mistaken to be a big castle. I even looked as an adult. No luck. All 3 of us remember this phenomenon. I'm now 25, so it's been about 20 years, but we spoke about this since we were 6, 8, 12, 15, etc. Essentially every time we saw each other. And we all remember. We always have. I know some of us will chalk this off to being a kid's imagination, but I swear that this happened. End quote.
So the aunt was just like, oh, off, kids.
Yeah.
I like how the mom got mad at them, but not the aunt that was watching them and let them leave.
Well, I think the mom was kind of watching too, right? She said the porch was open. I don't think it was
but the aunt was playing with them in the front yard.
Yes, the aunt was actually with them.
Or was she?
Or was she?
I don't know, because you never heard of it. We heard about the cousin mom.
Right.
That's not
the cousin's mom's the aunt.
That's an aunt?
Yeah. My cousin's mom is my aunt. Cousin's mom.
Cousin's mom. Okay.
AKA my aunt.
Aunt.
Whatever. But yeah, those are all the stories I have for the episode.
Well, let's discuss the interdimensional ones and then save the real discussion for the real stuff.
Okay.
The man.
Cool.
And I feel like I just want to talk about this story.
Sure.
And then we'll get to the discussion.
Is this the car one again?
No,
Oh,
the castle one. We haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, okay. The castle.
Now there's 3 people that see it. And like how far do you remember this becomes I did remember that?
Do you think they taught themselves up?
Is it possible? I don't know.
It's 2 people, right? It's the cousin.
3, isn't it? I thought it was 3.
I don't think the aunt went.
I thought he said the 3 of us.
I think that's just I think he counted the 2 teenagers that took them, and then the narrator, and then their cousin.
Why did I think it was 3 of them?
The aunt probably threw you off.
Either way, there's more than one person.
Yeah, I think, yeah. So him and the cousin. I think you're right, though. I think there might be some back and forth. Like, oh, we saw this, and there was grounds, and there was... Because, they talked about it, but how do they talk about it?
It's also so strange, like this teenager, like, you want to go see a castle?
It's a little weird, right?
It's like not like the Black Eyed Kids in a lot of ways, but also like people coming up oddly and asking a strange thing, Do
you think it could have been them from another dimension?
No, I don't get the Black Eyed Kids vibe from that. But like, what if they would have went in the castle?
I don't think they would have made it back out.
Not that bad if it's a nice castle. If they can live there.
I don't know. What if it's like Coraline's house, right? It looks nice on the outside, and then you got the thing.
It's just Resident Evil 4 castle with ganados. I don't know. This one's strange because, I always give a little bit more weight if there's another witness and both people stick to it. But there is that, and they're also like...
They're young.
Yeah, they're 25 now, but we're also listening to a narration of a 4-year-old.
4 and 5-year-old, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a story that goes back that far.
I remember things from when I was 4, but and how skewed do things go?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, even think about, like, things that we experienced 10 years ago might be hard to perfectly recall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, though.
Things get emphasized, things get forgotten, especially in that time, especially if you are ramping each other up. If you're like, I remember this, don't you remember that? Oh, of course I remember that. But also, you yes-and each other.
And you want to be involved. Like, we naturally have the tendency to want to be a part of something unique. You don't want to be the buzzkill that's like, I actually don't remember it, but he gets so excited about it. So I'm like, yeah, castle. What color was it again?
Yeah, it was definitely sparkling. There was 2 teenagers.
The cool thing about all of these stories is that none of them, I don't want to say none of them, they don't all scream interdimensional, but they all have facets of the idea of like parallel universes and interdimensional worlds, but like in very different ways. Like whatever you thought of when you thought of an interdimensional story, I think today we've heard some stories that are different from what you might have expected, which is cool. I
agree. My favorite was probably that, putting the Man From Taured away. My favorite from the Reddit stories was probably the first one, The Road. I forgot that this was about the man. I feel like we're all in these Reddit stories now. I think that one is the most believable to me. Yeah. I think I like in terms of just narrative and like what was entertaining, I think I like the castle one. I don't know why. It feels like they were being led off. It's creepy. Like led down this trail. It's really creepy. There was a No Sleep podcast story where it was like this kid that was like brought with this other kid like through this forest, and it was like I'm not spoiling it because I can't fully. Oh, I guess I will spoil it. I can't fully remember, but he was like he kept getting taken by this other kid to like this cool area, and he kept wanting him to stay longer. And then when he went home and he wanted to show it to he was like, "Don't show your parents or anything." Yeah. But when I think he got hurt or something, and he eventually made his parents go see where he went or got hurt, and there was like nothing there. Oof. And like I don't know if you ever found out like the kid died or something, but it's just that idea of like you're being taken by someone to a place that you might not otherwise be able to get to. Yeah. Sounds a little bit like, and also like the fate to me. Taking 20 minutes to get there, and then this is a good detail, and then it takes significantly less to get back. Yeah. Like that feels like, maybe fast travel, I don't know, but like it feels like something like it just hit me from other stories I've heard like in ways. Hypnotic state, right? Yeah. Well, that makes me think of the guy that's telling you, do you feel that? Yeah. Do you sense that? Are you giving me your wallet right now? What's your PayPal password? What's your social? Yeah. Like I like the castle one a lot, but if you want, we can get into the discussion and talk about. Yeah, let's get into the discussion and talk about the big story, the Man From Taured. At this time, we'd like to stop the episode and thank all our people who support us on Patreon. I thought you were going to say all of our newest patrons. We do have one lone hero with us on this shout out, Zachary. We applaud you. The floor is yours. Let me get that. Yes, thank you. Good job, Zachary. Yes. Thank you. Not yes, the patron, although we still appreciate you. Yes, Zachary. Thank you so much for joining us on our Patreon. We've got a lot of content. Oh, yeah. And a whole new tier. Whole new tier. I'm going to let Tyler shout one thing out, and then I'll shout one thing out. Yeah, then there's plenty more.
But one thing I want to highlight that we just recorded today, and it's a new segment. It's not even in our newest tier. I mean, it is. You get everything in the newest tier, but it's you don't have to be in that tier to hear it. It's one of our lower tiers as well. It's called voicemail clip segment. It is, we are going to give you a prompt. We got a Google phone number with a voicemail set up. That's essentially what it's for. We don't do anything else with it. But we're going to give you all prompts, and you guys call in and during this and leave a voicemail.
We want to hear from you.
Yeah. So in this segment, in real time, live, we listen back to your voicemails and we respond to them. So based on whatever we say, whether it's like favorite horror movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like an audio social media response.
Yeah. What do you do while you listen to the podcast? Do you have a favorite book? You know, it's gonna change every month what the prompt is, and we're always welcome to suggestions. But it's a chance for you to get your voice and your thoughts on the podcast, and it's always fun to like. I mean, there might be people that are always responding to things, but we don't get to hear them, and there's a whole different personal level to like hearing your voice, your inflection, things like that. So it's a fun segment. We're really glad to add it. Shout out producer Ben. It was his idea like a year ago to add it in there, and we finally did.
I really like the personal touch of the people telling their own thoughts.
Sure. So Charlie, what would you like to highlight from our Patreon?
Yeah, I'm gonna bust out my new Sharpie highlighter.
Yeah.
Yellow, thank you.
Ugh.
All right, gray.
Gray.
That's a bad highlighter color.
That's terrible. Black. Just Sharpie it.
Probably gonna go the pink one. The pink one's very nice.
I like that.
And I want to highlight something called Director's Cut. And that is where we sit down and we listen to an older episode and comment on that episode, things that were happening in the past, things that happened recently, how we felt about that certain thing. Tyler usually repeats the same joke.
It is crazy. It just shows how authentic I try to be.
Yeah.
Like we'll hear back something and I'll be like, I'll say a question.
Yeah.
And then me in the episode will ask that question.
It's funny. It's just, I enjoy it. I think it's something that you would enjoy as well if you can stand listening to four of us talk.
Also, it's one of our few video
That's
segments.
true. If you want to see our faces.
Because shout out Josh, there's some people out there that want to listen to it on audio, and I don't understand how that works.
It hurts.
Because it's the audio of us listening to the audio of us talking over us. Now, the mics change, the quality changes, but
it doesn't feel good.
No, I feel like you need to see it.
Yeah. But
not that it's
some people like it, so whatever. Anyway, those are the things I wanted to shout out. Let's get back to the episode. The Man From Taured.
So refresh me. What happened? That was like 40 minutes ago.
I know, right?
So
he lands in the airport.
Yeah. So there's different angles here, right?
There's a couple.
Well, do you have theories you want to present? Or?
Yeah, well, I guess let's talk about the one people say online now.
Folks.
They say that they've cracked the code. That it was just a man who was presenting a fake ID. That's all it was. But I have questions from there. How did he vanish? Right? Like, where did he go to? Maybe the hotel didn't only have one door. I feel like that's kind of demonstrative. I don't know if that's really true. Yeah,
like I feel like that is him disappearing from the room is the biggest thing that you can't easily explain away. Because you could just say he was really buying into this fake identity. I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
There's like when they were like point to a globe, he's like, damn, they're taking this far. Jeez, you know what I mean? You just close your eyes, and I would love to know, and there's no way to know. I would love to know whether he believed this, or if this was from the beginning just a way.
It's a way to get in, right?
A way to get in, I guess. Yeah. Why couldn't he just use his real information?
Well, because maybe that's flagged.
Yeah, I guess that's true, and that would be the most reasonable.
And it was 1954. He could have made any other. They made license cards in paper in the 70s. So I feel like he could have got away with something.
Yeah. Like he didn't need to make up a country, I don't think.
Probably he could have just gone with France and they would have been like,
sure.
oui,
yeah,
you idiots. But what if it's all true? In his head, what if he is this man? He's from another country, gets on this plane, lands in Japan, and they're like, where are you from? He's like, oh, it's hard. Here's my ID. And they're like, that's weird. And he's like, why is that weird? And like, that doesn't seem, hold on. Where is it on the globe? Right here. Oh shit. What the f***? That's not my country. Could you imagine the brain melting there?
Well, they needed like a serious detective who can tell whether people are acting to see.
Some kind of machine to detect lies.
I think the least interesting theory is that he was faking it, trying to get in.
I do too.
Least interesting. So then the other two theories are that are more interesting to me is that either he fully believed this to be true and it was fake, he just had mental illness, or it is true. Like those are the two most interesting things, like for me. And that doesn't mean that that's the truth, but those are the ones that are more.
Which one do you lean? What makes more sense to you? Occam's razor.
Ooh, that he faked it. It's not like, but I guess if it's either mental illness versus it's all true, him disappearing from the hotel room, if there really is only one door, like if I have to believe that the door never opened, he never physically left through the door and he was gone.
That is the thing that police do that. That happens.
Yeah. Well, in the action movie, they go out the window and then he throws his little. He takes the bed sheets and ties them together.
Yeah.
And then he, flings it down and he crawls. And then there's a woman doing laundry that looks out the window and sees him.
And he just disappears into Japan. Like,
yeah,
right.
I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if there was one thing that somebody could tell me was 100% true, and it's that he did disappear. He didn't leave through the door. He vanished. It actually leads the most amount of weight to him not being from here.
Yeah.
And I would you say it was a future thing or a past thing?
I think it's neither. I think it's just parallel, right?
I guess I would say if he was from the future, that would mean that he'd be significantly beyond us because this country that he's talking about still doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So if it is our timeline and it hasn't happened yet, when he sees everything in the 50s, that's another thing.
Yeah.
If it's from a different timeline, there should have been enough clues for him to know shit ain't right.
As soon as he sees people smoking on the plane,
he's like, wait a minute, this isn't normal.
Yeah, no. Why is everyone in suits?
Yeah. Why am I in a suit? Why do I have a fedora?
No, I don't think it was on the timeline. I think it was just parallel. Same timeline. Just
so still the 50s, but just a different 1950s.
Yeah.
We're like, it's like, it's the I got one more in me. You've seen that meme? It's because he would never retire. He kept saying, I got one more in me. And people, the people use it jokingly. But I'm just imagining, people colonizing countries. And it's like, this white guy's, I got one more in me. And it's going to be torn.
I wonder where it would have split on the historical timeline. Like, I guess when that country was made. I
feel like there's a lot of different things in Europe where, things change a lot over there, I feel
very close, yeah.
So... yeah, I guess one war goes this way or one person dies here and then all of a sudden you got Taured.
Versus
maybe Taured is a huge castle.
Ooh, maybe.
Maybe all these stories have connections with each other. That's a part 2 of this podcast. We're going to take those 4 Reddit stories and find a way to make them all tie together.
That just sounds like a creative writing project.
Well, what else is Reddit for? What else is Reddit for? Where do you land on the believability scale of the Man From Taured?
It is hard. It's very hard for me. There's a couple reasons why I'm not going to go full believable.
Sure.
He doesn't have a name. There's a lot of details that are left out for me. The name of the hotel, the name of the business, the money on the thing, the monies that they said he had, the airline, his name.
How do we know this is real? Not his story, but this story. Not any of the, how do I want to say this? Not whether or not this guy was from a different time zone, but the fact that the fact
story
that
happened.
A man ever was in the 50s in Japan. Do we know this to be true?
No, we don't know.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, he vanished.
That's like,
he vanished.
You just blew a wind on my fire. Every ounce. I'm not gonna lie. There was parts of me where I was thinking viable, and then you just did that.
I go viable.
Oh.
I go viable. I think it could have happened. Well, here's the thing. It has to become an urban legend, right? No one's going to report on this. They don't have the key details because he disappears.
But when I mean,
it's 1954, Tyler.
If they took his name, they should have taken his name,
but they didn't.
Well, They took the time to make him point at a globe, but they didn't write down his name.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little fishy. But all his paperwork vanished too.
So everything about him vanished.
Maybe.
It's like he disappeared from this existence.
All of it. Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
Entirely.
Maybe the whole case vanished.
Maybe the people, everybody he interacted with vanished too.
Yeah.
Like, you're coming with
They're
us.
all gone.
You're all at the castle now. I don't know. I was actually leaning viable because there's a lot of things about interdimensional that I find interesting. It's hard to discount because it kind of like, it's like that friend in high school that's like, I can hang out with the band people and I can hang out with the football people.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like interdimensional is holding hands with science and holding hands with paranormal. Where it's like, scientifically, you could probably find a way.
There could be a way for this to happen.
But paranormal, it's like, it's pretty weird, right? I feel like this, like, and that's, I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm like behind them holding their hand too.
Yeah.
And
it's a weird analogy, but okay.
I like things that blend that way. So I've always kind of had a soft spot for interdimensional, but this isn't whether or not interdimensional moments are true or not.
Right.
This is this one specific
just this one story.
And it just seems crazy that they couldn't have got this guy's name, but they were going to take the time to make him point out on a map where he's from. Like, I think I'm really hung up on that. I'm stuck between skeptical and viable.
Yeah. Yeah, I can tell that. See that.
We know, Tyler. I'm viable on interdimensional, but this specific story, just because there's not much to grasp onto.
There's not.
I'm going to go
get
skeptical.
That's fair. We hope you enjoyed this episode. The Man from Taured.
We don't even know if it's a man.
This person from Taured. Yes, it's a crazy story, and I've heard the story. I've known about the story for probably since I was a teenager.
It's a good story in that you can tell it without having to like.
It's super urban legendy.
Yeah,
yeah.
It is, but it's not. Like, it's not the typical type of urban legend in terms of content. But I feel like the build up, the mystery, and then the twist. But it's like it's a good story because you can tell it around a campfire without like you can fumble around the details.
Yeah,
like nothing is so concrete where you're like, oh, I don't remember what happened next. Like, it's easy to kind of like airport, unknown, ID, point out, doesn't make sense, lock them up, disappears. You know what I mean? Like, It's a very good campfire story.
Yeah, it's also not super scary either, so that's nice.
It's unusual though. It's unsettling.
It's strange. Because it's like, what if it happens to me?
Imagine those people having to explain it. Like, you had one job to keep this dude in this room, and he's gone.
I know.
And they're like, y'all didn't even get his name.
You know what's hard for me to figure out? Where did he appear from? Did he appear in the airport and get on the plane? And he had to do the whole journey? Did he appear in the bathroom of the airplane and walk out?
Jeez.
Like, you know what I mean? Whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like, where did he shift from?
That's a good point, because we're talking about how weird it is that he was here, but it was weird for him to be here too. Like, he must not have realized it though.
Mm-mm.
Maybe it happened flying.
Yeah, maybe in the plane. Maybe in his dimension, there's a man from Andorra. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
ooh, they give me shivers.
I feel like it had to be before the plane. Otherwise, the people would have shifted on the plane with him, and he would have noticed.
Right.
So it couldn't have been on the plane.
So where did that shift happen? Maybe it was driving to get to the airport?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it had to be before he was around a bunch of people.
It had to be.
Otherwise, he would have noticed. Because it seems like he was unsuspecting. Like, he was confident. Not like, I feel like I'm in a foreign place. It was more like, I'm going to show you on this map where I'm from.
Yeah. Or maybe he had a layover flight from Taured to someplace, and that's where the shift is.
Maybe. Getting off the plane and like...
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to figure out where the shift actually
I would
starts.
love to know if he felt like something was off for him, or if he just... if he
or
was
if you figure out at the map. I don't know. I got text. It scared me. Anyway, let's...
Oh, yeah. This is in the discussion.
This is the wrap-up, yeah.
But, I don't know. There's a lot of questions and not enough answer.
That's true. If you like this episode and you had a fun time with us and you want to tell us about it, go to Apple and leave 5 stars and a review. Say something like cool, like, oh man, that's great, or bad juju, or something like that.
Hell yeah, brother.
I don't know, something. And if you want to go on Spotify and leave a 5-star review, we'd appreciate that as well.
It blows my mind that you said, and that's the end of this story at 12 minutes, unedited. And we're at 57 minutes, unedited. That's wild.
That's the power.
But you know
of
what
Reddit.
else is wild? How much bonus content we have over on our Patreon. We had 3 tiers full of crazy extra bonus content.
We do indeed.
It's not that crazy, but it is a lot. But now we added a 4th tier. There's interactive segments. We do virtual game nights. We watch movies together. We do Google Hangouts. We got an exclusive shirt. We have an exclusive hoodie. We have an enamel pin that is yearly. Once the clock strikes 12 and it's January 1st, 2024, you can no longer get this pin. You can only get it this year, right now, in the moment. We got games like quizzes, multiple quizzes now. We have 2 different versions of quizzes. Producer Ben quizzes us on our own old episodes. Director's cuts. Charlie and I live in this studio. We joke about it.
It's kind of true.
We joke about it, but some of the jokes are rooted in truth. It's a good time though. But we appreciate everybody for listening. And if you want all that bonus content or want to help support the podcast, it's all out there for you. But you don't have to. We appreciate you listening right now. It means a lot to both of us. But with that said, thank you, everybody, so much. As always, I'm Tyler.
And I'm Charlie.
And catch us next week on Believing the Bizarre,
a podcast as bizarre as you are.